You're listening to an Ono Media podcast.
Good morning, and thanks for joining me for Rise in Crime, your morning caffeine hit all about crime. I'm Mama Jules, and as I promised, I'm bringing you the story of Kairen Lacy, an NFL draft prospect who took his own life just back in April. But over the last week and a half, a media firestorm reignited the reasons behind Kairen's all-too-early death. So, who is Kairen Lacy? Well, born in Thibodaux, Louisiana, Kairen was a highly touted prospect who began his college career at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, go Ragin' Cajuns. That was all before transferring to LSU, go Tigers, and that happened in 2022. At LSU, he emerged as a star player, particularly in the 2024 season, where he led the team with 9 touchdown receptions, and he recorded 58 catches for 866 yards over 12 games. Now, over his 3 seasons with the Tigers, Kairen amassed 112 receptions for about 1,692 yards and 16 touchdowns. Those are pretty good stats. That earned him recognition as one of the top wide receiver prospects for the 2025 NFL Draft. It's looking good for him. ESPN draft analyst Mel Kiper Jr. ranked him as high as the number 6 wide receiver prospect in that class. Kairen declared for the NFL Draft on December 19th, 2024, just 2 days after a tragic car crash in which he was implicated by video and eyewitness statements driving his very distinctive green Dodge Charger. Now, we'll get to the crash in just a bit. Due to the circumstances, Kairen skipped LSU's Texas Bowl game against Baylor. But he did participate in LSU's Pro Day in March of 2025. There he was showcasing his skills to NFL scouts. His athletic profile, he was 6'2", 213 pounds, with elite speed and route running ability. Well, that positioned him as a potential mid to late round pick. But that crash and the legal troubles that followed caused his draft stock to plummet. And it wasn't that Kairen didn't have coaches and loved ones in his corner. He did. But the weight of the crash was crushing to Kairen because prosecutors believed Kairen was responsible for the death of one of the crash victims, 78-year-old Herman Hall. Now, the sequence of these tragic events began on December 17th of last year. Kairen was back in Chack Bay, Louisiana, near his hometown of Thibodaux, and the crash occurred on Highway 90. Now, I'm trying to paint a picture here for you. This isn't open road highway. Highway 90 is a state highway that runs through business areas. So where the crash occurred, we have gas stations and storefronts. And all of that's important here because we have camera angles from those business surveillance systems. And we have, like I said, a distinctive green Dodge Charger seen speeding on those videos. Now, here are the facts of the car accident, at least according to Louisiana State Police. These facts were released just 1 month after the fatal accident. LSP says Kairen was driving the green Dodge Charger southbound at a very high rate of speed for the area which includes a no passing zone. Kairen allegedly crossed the center line to pass multiple vehicles. Car data indicates he passed 4 cars, and that information matched eyewitness statements. LSP felt that Kairen passing those cars caused oncoming traffic to react. A Ford F-150 gold pickup truck abruptly applied the brakes to avoid colliding with Kairen's Charger. This aggressive braking forced a white Kia Cadenza that was driving directly behind the Ford F-150 to swerve to avoid rear-ending the truck. The female driver yanked the Kia into oncoming traffic where the Kia collided head-on with a Chevrolet Silverado pickup. Now, that passenger in that Silverado was our 78-year-old Herman Hall. He died instantly from the impact. Video showed Kairen swerving through the accident just 1 to 2 seconds after it occurred and then leaving the scene. Okay, I'm going to walk you through this. He's driving towards this accident. He goes into the opposing lane. That causes the gold pickup to slam on the brakes, according to the LSP. Behind the gold pickup is a white Kia. The Kia doesn't want to slam into the gold pickup, So the Kia swerves into oncoming traffic, and that's when it hits the other pickup, and that's when Herman Hall dies. Okay. LSP says Kairen traveled for more than 11 miles without stopping after he swerved around the accident. Now, on January 12th of this year, so about a month after the accident, LSP charged Kairen with negligent homicide, felony hit and run with serious injury or death, and misdemeanor reckless operation of a vehicle. Kairen worked with authorities and turned himself in and bonded out just 2 hours later after posting the $151,000 bail. Prosecutors from the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office prepared to present the case to a grand jury on April 14th, 2025. Now, witnesses at the scene of the accident consistently identified Kairen's green Charger as the vehicle that, quote, put the events in motion. Now, all of this, again, is according to LSP statements. The charges left the NFL Draft Committee with some complicated feelings. I guess that's a way to say it. Kairen was uninvited from the workout day where athletes show up to audition for their potential NFL spots. And coverage in March and April of this year portrayed Kairen as reckless, an undisciplined athlete who caused the death of a Korean War veteran, Herman Hall. And we know it just doesn't happen on sports networks. Social media was ruthless with demands that Kairen be permanently banned from the NFL. Even his coach, Brian Kelly from LSU, well, he was firm but loving with Kairen. In an LSU press conference after the charges were announced, the coach said that the entire organization was heartbroken for everyone involved and that, quote, Kairen knows the gravity of this. Now, that statement could have been interpreted as Kairen being culpable or guilty without even having the grand jury convene. Or it could have just been the coach saying, hey, we're taking this seriously. Just 2 days before the grand jury hearing in April, now this grand jury hearing was to determine if Kairen was going to trial for these charges. Well, Harris County deputies were called to a disturbance at a home. A female family member of Kairen's was telling dispatch that Kairen had been arguing with her and in his anger had discharged a firearm, shooting the bullet into the ground outside their home. Kairen left in a car before deputies could arrive on scene. He didn't get far, though. Deputies spotted Kairen's car and attempted a traffic stop, but Kairen sped on and refused to pull over. The car chase lasted several miles throughout, like the greater Houston area. It's listed as Houston, but it's actually outside of Houston. Now, eventually, the pursuit ended when Kairen pulled his car over. Officers cautiously approached Kairen's car, intending to extricate him and arrest him. Instead, they found Kairen suffering from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his head. He was pronounced dead at the scene by responding EMS. He was the only one in the car, and the gun was found inside the car. Kairen's father, Kairen Lacy, shared an emotional Facebook post the next day, urging parents to discuss mental health openly. He said, quote, mental health is real, and for the most part, it's invisible. Don't ignore the signs, even if they may seem small. Our lives have changed forever, and this will never be okay. But God needed my baby more than he was needed here. LSU issued a statement saying, we're saddened to learn of the tragic passing of former LSU football student athlete Kairen Lacy. This was a tragic outcome, clearly. But even more emotion was inflamed when the NFL and NCAA observed moments of silence for other deceased figures, but not for Kairen. Now, following his death, the LSP decided to close the investigation into the crash. It seemed for them the story was over. That was until 2 weeks ago. In an interview with Homa TV in Texas, attorney Matthew Ori, who represents Kairen's family, well, he released gas station surveillance footage and also crash data arguing that Kairen did not cause the crash. Ori listed 5 points in his argument. First, according to the attorney, Kairen did pass 4 cars, so he says that's accurate. But he says Kairen returned to his lane 92 yards before the collision point. Ironically, almost an entire football field. Second, he said at the time of impact, Kairen was 72 yards behind the vehicles involved. Third, Ori accused LSP of inconsistencies, including coercing a witness and misstating that Kairen was actively passing at the time of impact. Now, the witness coercion, I can see that. It's disputable, but it is caught on body cam video. An officer does seem to be slightly pressuring a witness to make a certain kind of statement about the crash. But I do think that can also be understood as the deputy just trying to get to the end result of the conversation. And then fourth, from attorney Ori, well, he believes the driver of the Kia Cadenza was actually the person who caused the crash because that driver was tailgating the Ford pickup. And then finally, number 5, Ori said, quote, Kairen had no idea he caused this accident because he didn't think he caused the accident. He didn't cause the accident. Now, Ori made this point to explain why Kairen swerved around the scene of the crash and continued on down the highway. Well, footage from this interview went wild on TikTok and X. Supporters of Kairen used the hashtag LLK2, standing for Long Live Kairen with his jersey number. Others accused authorities of a railroad job of an investigation, which they say eventually led to Kairen taking his own life. Now, the NAACP called for an external LSP investigation, this to determine if the LSP participated in, potential misconduct. 36 hours after that. So 36 hours after Matthew Ori put out all of that in the interview and after the NAACP got involved, the LSP had a response. They said that the video clearly shows that Kairen was driving at least 25 miles per hour over the speed limit and also that Kairen was crossing into the oncoming lanes just before impact. Now, LSP re-highlighted. Okay, I'm saying re-highlighted because they had gone over all of this clear back March, April. They had released all of this information. So LSP re-highlighted that witnesses said the green Charger caused the Kia to swerve into oncoming traffic. LSP also admitted that an independent review had found that the Kia Cadenza was tailgating the Ford, but that the true catalyst for the crash was the green Charger being in the lane of traffic before swerving back into his own lane. All right, I've watched the video, trying to be very objective. For YouTube, I'll play it right now.
According to the video timestamp, at 12:03 p.m. and 54 seconds, a portion of the crash can be seen as it occurs. Moments before the crash, the gold pickup truck abruptly veers out of the northbound lane into a business, while the green Charger is approaching in the same lane. Immediately after the crash occurred, the green Charger was observed on surveillance video and by witnesses traveling through the crash scene and continues north on LA 20, failing to stop. At the same time, all other vehicles remain at the scene to provide assistance.
Okay, for those watching YouTube, you can start making your own decision here. For those on podcast, I've got to be really honest with you. I can see how people think Kairen is not the cause of the accident. But I have to admit, if I'm being objective, I really have no formal training in the mathematics behind the speed and the reaction time of drivers. So that leaves me going, I really don't know the answer here. But I do know this. He was speeding. That is clear on the video. And he was passing in a no passing zone. That is clear as well. Now, about the same time that the LSP released their response, ESPN got hip deep in the emotions that had been stirred up by the attorney on the Houston interview. Okay, let's start with Ryan Clark. He is a former LSU safety and is now an ESPN analyst. He said during the Monday Night Football postgame show with Scott Van Pelt the following, quote, Kairen Lacy was supposed to be on an NFL field this weekend. Kairen Lacy was innocent. Someone needs to pay for the lies, deceit, and evil he rendered. That is a very bold statement, especially with how I could go either way in the argument from watching the video. Now, Ryan Clark, he went on in his comments to blame the NFL, the NCAA, and the LSP for ruining Kairen's life. Now, that clip from the post-game show amassed hundreds of thousands of views and likes on X, and that doesn't even factor in the sharing of the content on other platforms or even however many people were watching the post-game show. Okay, remember, this is right after the interview and right before LSP issued their response. And when the video was released by LSP, and lots of people like me are going, okay, hey, I'm not so sure if Kairen is guilty or innocent. How can we be playing the blame game here? Well, that left so many more people going, let's slow everything down and really figure out this video. Now, the LSP video that shows a broader context than the one shown by Attorney Ori includes 21 separate video cameras. That collection of videos provides the more complete path of Kairen driving the Charger. Now, the LSP does admit in the video that the timestamps don't quite match up. They say this is because of different systems providing the videos and that some don't have updated timestamps on them, like maybe like the time change each year or whatever. Now, when the deputy rolls onto the scene and we get to watch his body cam footage, he spends several minutes speaking with a truck driver who saw the entire accident. Now, let me play just a portion of that for you right now.
It's a natural instinct to turn, and then she had no choice. Head on.
Did you see a green Charger flying that way? A green Charger that going that way?
There was a green Charger.
There was a green Charger that
caused all this.
SRT8. He caused all of it. He went to pass the cars way back there, sir.
The green Charger collided with these cars?
He went right.
He went around that truck. Okay. He was coming this way right now, and she had no choice. She hits the pole. What's where he hits this?
How are the injuries? What are they?
She got a broken ankle.
Broken ankle.
Complaining back injuries and then stuff like that.
Yeah.
So 2 back injuries, 1 broken ankle?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly. I just told him not to move. You know what I'm saying?
You said something about a green Charger. Who told you something about a green Charger?
I'm down 18 wheel right there, sir.
Okay, so you saw it?
I saw it.
What did you see happen?
He went to pass him. I say when he went to pass me cars back there. He was back there around
the curve.
Around the curve. All right.
Okay.
All right. Hey, he come down. Right. When he come down, I got Mr. He had his brother that he was taken to the emergency room, to the hospital or something like that, chemo or something like that. But I got his number also to verify this, because he was a car that was in front of her. When that green Charger came, he went caused this whole big traffic, so everybody went to hit and brakes because the Charger, I thought he was hit the gold truck head on. So he jammed on brakes. She was coming down. They was going that way. When I saw...
Which way was the Charger going? The Charger
going this way.
Charger's going this way, okay.
She was coming this way.
Okay.
They was going this way also. Mr. jammed on brakes. She went to dodge Mr. And that's when she came on.
I was watching. I was by the gas
hit
station.
him, on the left side. She come over and hit him.
Which 18-wheel were you driving?
The Rebel. Right there.
So
Now, this portion of the body cam video goes on for several minutes, explaining the weaving in and out of traffic by the green Charger and the reason these witnesses believe the Kia swerved. The woman who was driving the Cadenza is asked questions as she lies on the pavement awaiting medical assistance, and all of that's caught on the body cam footage. In that video, she tells the deputy that she was driving the speed limit and that she swerved to miss the braking truck. Now, it is important to note, that woman eventually was given a ticket for following too close. But the LSP determined she was not responsible for the chain of events. Instead, it was Kairen and his Charger being in the wrong lane, passing in a no passing zone, traveling at least 25 miles over the speed limit, and he was the one responsible. Now, one more note by the LSP. Remember how I said Kairen drove more than 11 miles uninterrupted following the crash? Well, when he finally stopped, his first call, according to the LSP, was to a criminal defense attorney. Now, the release did cause some to apologize about their quick reaction to the shorter video that was provided by attorney Ori, and that includes nearly every ESPN personality that jumped quickly to the conclusion that the LSP were negligent in their investigation and that negligence caused Kairen to take his life. However, the NAACP, well, they doubled down, releasing a statement calling for the resignation of Colonel Robert Hodges. That's the man who led the LSP investigation and also the man who introduced the 11-minute response video by the LSP. Then we got politics involved. Attorney General for Louisiana, Liz Muriel, well, she weighed in and she said in a statement that the evidence is not disputed in this case and that the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office was prepared clear back in April to present the case to a grand jury, showing Kairen was responsible for the crash, even if he did return to his lane prior to the crash. All right, you guys. There are nearly 1,000 comments on the Facebook post by LSP. That's just that initial post. I can't even imagine how many more comments are out there. And those 1,000 comments, well, they're all over the board. Some say the video shows the female driver of the Kia is responsible. Some say the video of the green Charger is evidence that the truck was forced to slam on his brakes, and that was the cause. I think the biggest issue for most people here is the distance from the crash to where the green Charger is re-entering his appropriate lane. I do want those who watch the video to realize how much the green Charger brakes and reduces his speed right before the crash. I believe this is because Kairen realized how dangerous it was for his car approaching a head-on collision with that gold truck, and I think he was probably getting out of the way, but I'm not in his mind. And that is just one portion of the video to take into consideration. There is one thing that we can agree on. 2 people have lost their lives, the 78-year-old veteran Herman Hall and Kairen, due to the intense emotional grief he was suffering heading into that grand jury hearing. What do you think? I'm going to guess you guys are going to have a lot of varying opinions about this one as well. Let me know in the comments. Now for our next story out of California, we have to reference another auto accident, like our first story, except this story involves 4 deaths from 2 years ago, and the update with the defense strategy is kind of wild. So let's get into it. The Pacific Coast Highway, or PCH, in California has a stretch of the highway known as Dead Man's Curve. This area is a notoriously hazardous 2-lane highway. It hugs the cliffs above the Pacific Ocean, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But the dark side of Dead Man's Curve, a name that's well earned, is that it has a history of 53 fatalities and 92 serious injuries between 2013 and 2023, just in that 10-year span. All of those have been attributed to the sharp curves, the poor lighting, and the high traffic on the PCH. Now, on the evening of October 17th, 2023, 4 women, all seniors at Pepperdine University and all members of the Alpha Pi sorority, well, they were gathered together in a group. Now, they had just finished attending a sorority formal event at a Malibu beachside venue. The night was kind of foggy, and it was getting late for Tuesday evening. The 4 women piled into a friend's car to make the short 10-minute trip along the PCH to return to their off-campus apartment. Traffic was heavy due to that fog, but also due to a pesky highway reconstruction project that was kind of exacerbating the slowdowns. Wanting to get home, the 4 told their friend to just pull over. Hey, drop us off and we'll walk the remaining half mile to our home near the Pepperdine campus. As the 4 women exited the vehicle, they traversed the area known as Dead Man's Curve. If you're immediately saying, "What the heck, ladies, that sounds dangerous," I kind of felt that way a little bit too, but then I learned that students are known to walk this area. Now at 11:15 on a foggy night, that might have changed some of your minds, but nonetheless, this walking on Dead Man's Curve appears to happen. Now, the 4 were seen by witnesses kind of laughing and chatting about the night's event, arm in arm as they walked along the highway. At about 11:27, then 22-year-old Fraser Bohm approached the women from the south in his red 2016 BMW M240i convertible. And that just made me think, how California is a red BMW convertible, totally on brand. Now, this car is kind of a sleek two-door coupe that was gifted to Frazier by his parents about 5 years earlier when he was just 17 years old, about to turn 18. According to the vehicle's event data recorder, or the black box, Frazier had been cruising at about 93 miles per hour, but then aggressively accelerated to 104 miles per hour over just 2.5 seconds. Think of flooring the gas pedal while downshifting for torque. Now, this burst of speed in a zone limited to 45 miles per hour. Again, he reached 104, and the speed limit is 45 miles per hour. So that burst of speed in this 45 miles per hour zone, because of safety, that's why it's so low, and the curve's 90-degree bend, and also a 200-foot drop-off, well, it propelled the BMW into a loss of control. 6 eyewitnesses, now I need to note with varying accounts, meaning they don't match up perfectly, but 6 eyewitnesses reported Frazier's taillights fishtailing wildly as he hydroplaned on a slick patch of asphalt, maybe because of some recent rain. Frazier veered right, crossing the fog line into the shoulder and collided broadside with 3 parked vehicles. He hit a white Tesla Model Y, a black Mercedes-Benz SUV, and a gray Toyota Prius. The impact chain reaction flung debris and the displaced cars into the pedestrians, striking all 4 women with lethal force. 20-year-old Naeem Ralston, 21-year-old Peyton Stewart, 21-year-old Aisha Weir, and 20-year-old Deslyn Williams, well, they were all pronounced dead at the scene of the crash. Now, the women had suffered massive blunt force trauma with crushing injuries to their heads and torsos. 2 other bystanders suffered injuries as well, but were not killed in the accident. Frazier's BMW spun out post-impact and skidded 150 feet before halting against a guardrail. The airbag had deployed, protecting him, and the front end of the BMW was a mangled mess. And it's reported by witnesses that as Frazier extricated himself from the crumpled BMW, he was seen yelling into his phone to a 911 dispatcher that he was, quote, run off the road. All right, this matched his first statement to Los Angeles County deputies, where he said he was fleeing a road rage aggressor. Frazier claimed a white 4-door car, possibly a Honda Accord, had allegedly been tailgating him aggressively for several miles. Frazier said the white car swerved into his lane in a prior curve where Frazier said the car clipped his passenger side mirror. He said that interaction caused him to make the evasive maneuver that forced his car into the other cars that ricocheted into the 4 women and 2 other bystanders. Frazier said the driver of the white car was a middle-aged man in rage. Investigators later reported that they found 0 evidence of the road rage incident. Now, they reported they had searched traffic cams, which I need to remind everyone can be very low resolution, and it was foggy, but they had searched traffic cams. They had looked for matching cars at the scene of the accident. They couldn't find the white car in any dash cam video that they found amongst the cars, and none of the witnesses reported seeing the phantom white car. Now, of course, Frazier was checked out and his blood was drawn, and when those toxicology reports came back, Frazier was clean. There was no chemical impairment. The investigation also included a complete forensic audit of Frazier's cell phone, and again, it was clean. Frazier was not texting while driving. Now, the crash scene investigators came to a conclusion that tire marks indicated overcorrection from excessive speed. The tire marks did not show the car was bumped by another car or that an external collision occurred what could have flung Frazier's BMW into the 3 other cars. Now, deputies had arrived at the scene within 4 minutes, and Frazier was detained and then eventually booked into the Twin Towers Correctional Facility. He was being charged with felony gross vehicular manslaughter. Initially, that charge included intoxication, but obviously that was later dropped. The scene almost instantly became a memorial site. The crash was just 0.3 miles from campus, and within minutes, word had spread and 200 people were gathered and mourning at the alumni chapel on campus. By the next morning, the public was mad. Pepperdine President Jim Gash addressed the community at 7 a.m. the next day, calling the deaths, quote, sudden, tragic, and incomprehensible. And then he suspended classes for a week. Vigils swelled to thousands, with the sorority's national chapter issuing a statement saying these women embodied the sorority's values of loyalty and compassion. Families arrived in mass. Naeem's from Nevada, Aisha's from Pennsylvania, Peyton's from Florida, and Deslin's from Missouri, all of them jointly demanding justice. And when I said the public was mad, they were even more mad. I mean, they didn't even hesitate to take action. 3 days post-accident, the families had filed wrongful death lawsuits against California's Transportation Department, LA County, the City of Malibu, and the California Coastal Commission. The families held those 4 entities responsible for not laying down rumble strips or constructing barriers. They also took issue with the low lighting on the highway. So let's figure out Frazier. And how does his background play into today's update on the case? Well, Frazier was raised in an affluent yet fractured home. His parents went through a bitter divorce that ended when Frazier was just 15 years old. Court documents reveal arguments in the messy divorce that included what financial gifts Frazier would receive following the divorce. Well, they got really, really ugly. His parents, though divorced, decided to shoulder the cost of the red BMW, which was an early gift for his 18th birthday. They also jointly shouldered his school tuition for his elite $31,000 a year prep academy. Now, Frazier is athletic. He lettered in baseball as a pitcher, and reports from college scouts mention that Frazier had a, quote, raw arm talent, but he lacked control. Even with some smaller schools possibly willing to take a chance on his pitching talent, Frazier just kind of shrugged off those opportunities, and he chose to take a gap year following graduation. That year turned into 3 years with a small job here or there, but no steady employment. Frazier had a reputation of attending bonfires and weekend trips with his friends, all funded by his parents. But he wasn't like a bad young man, and I say that with air quotes because, I mean, that's all relative. But what I mean by that is prior to the accident, Frazier had no criminal blemishes, not even a parking ticket. His DMV record is spotless. After his arrest, he spent 10 days in jail before his family posted the $4 million bail. Since then, he has been on house arrest, choosing to stay at his father's home with an ankle monitor. All right, that catches us up to June of this year, when, fresh off his win for Karen Reed in the infamous double trial of the murder of John O'Keefe, defense attorney Alan Jackson joined Frazier's legal team. And on September 30th, Jackson filed a 59-page motion asking the judge to completely dismiss the murder charges. All right, what's Jackson arguing? Well, he says there is, quote, insufficient malice. Frazier has a clean record. He wasn't impaired. And that curve tilt on Dead Man's Curve made it so he lost control of his BMW. Basically, he's saying it's not Frazier's fault. His legal team told reporters the following: "This is grossly overcharged. It is a tragedy on a killer road." Now, of course, prosecutors feel differently and say all of the malice is wrapped up in the acceleration of the speed, that pedal flooring 104 miles per hour that they claim they can prove. Alan Jackson has also lobbied in a different hearing for Frazier's bond to be lowered from $4 million to $2 million. He said this is necessary because the family has assets leveraged to pay for Frazier's defense, and basically they're penniless now. Now, I'll be following this one for you. The next hearing is set for November 10th, and if the 59-page motion filed by Alan Jackson is denied by the judge, a trial date will be set. And you're probably going, the accident happened in 2023. You guys, this is California. They move slow there. Now, I want to make sure we recognize the 4 women who were innocent victims in this tragedy. Naeem was a business major. She was athletic and talented. She was involved in gymnastics and pole vaulting. She apparently was a Harry Potter theme fan, like she would do sorority parties or speeches based upon Harry Potter. And she worked tirelessly on those sorority events. Peyton was also majoring in business. She had traveled and studied abroad in London, Greece, and Spain. She was a foodie who loved sushi even at the age of 5. Anisha had a talent for words and was majoring in English. She was known as the old soul of the group and texted daily with her mother. And finally, Deslyn was the pet lover, planning to extend her education and become a veterinarian. She volunteered at Malibu pet shelters, and loved ones said she is now tending heaven's animals. Let me know what you think about this case in the comments. Like I said, I'm going to be following it for you. Now to this short story out of Anaheim, California. Leaves me asking, isn't Disneyland supposed to be the happiest place on earth? Not for one park guest and her family members. This all happened on October 6th, just about a week ago, when a woman in her 60s was riding the Haunted Mansion attraction in her Doom Buggy. That's what they're called on that ride. They're called Doom Buggies. Well, at Halloween, if you guys haven't been there, the Haunted Mansion ride kind of changes a bit. And there are tons of spooky jack-o'-lanterns and Halloween-themed characteristics that are added to the ride. It's really kind of awesome. If you haven't been, October's a great time to visit Disney. Well, back to the woman. First responders found this 60-year-old woman that she had died in one of the Doom Buggies, and the ride was shut down for a short period of time when park staff sat there and performed CPR until EMS arrived. The woman was transported to a local hospital, but the woman's body was not taken into custody by the Orange County Sheriff's coroner, and therefore no autopsy is going to be performed. Park staff reported to media that no cause of death is going to be revealed, and they're working on the idea that the guest had an apparent medical episode. So what they're saying is there's no crime here, at least as far as we know. I hope she was a true Disney lover who was having the time of her life when she died. And to just a couple of comments from Thursday's episode, remember the woman who put 75 tampons painted red on her ex-boyfriend's lawn? Well, before I started that story, I asked, what state is the Queen of Bizarre? What state would have a woman who dumped 75 tampons on a yard? Well, Sinner89 wrote on YouTube, I love how I yell out, we know it's Florida. Like I could envision her screaming that as she was listening on YouTube. And then Heather wrote that she almost choked on her ramen as I told that story. Elizabeth said, tampons aren't cheap. What a waste of money. And then there was this comment on Spotify. Liz Ann, I think that's how she says her name. Well, she said the tampon story is the kind of petty that she can respect. She said the woman should have to pay to have the yard cleaned up, but it did take some serious effort to paint 75 of those red and carry out her plan. All right, you guys, that's your Monday episode of Rise in Crime. Thank you for being here. Please share this episode with a friend and keep sending me your case suggestions. I always try to follow up on them. We love 5-star reviews, positive comments, follows, likes, subscribes, all the good things. Please do that on all of our social media and YouTube accounts here at Oh No Media. That's Murder with My Husband, Into the Dark, and Rise in Crime. Join me again on Thursday for more morning crime news. I'm Mama Jules, and keep safe out there.